Hello, everybody, and welcome back to the podcast. Breaking news today, so we're just going to hop right into it. Mike, Francisco Lindor is going to get surgery on his hamate bone. We heard yesterday from basically everybody that he was injured and he might get the surgery, he might not, and the timetable for his return would be around 6 weeks. But just now, as we said, breaking, Carlos Mendoza has confirmed that Lindor will be getting the surgery. So at least 6 weeks out for that. They're hoping that he does return for opening day. So already it doesn't even matter with the New York Mets. There is an injury, and Francisco Lindor is virtually out for all of spring training. Your initial thoughts?
Well, I mean, apparently he started the trend of the hamate bone injury because since he got hurt, we heard that now Jackson Holiday got it. He's out for opening day. Corbin Carroll got it for Arizona. He's out for the WBC, TBD on opening day. Like, it's one of those things that's unfortunate, but like, if it's this kind of injury, at least in terms of missing time, like he's missing spring training, which doesn't matter as much. It might affect him early in the season, but like, it's not, it would have been worse if this happened in June. He's out for like 6 weeks in the middle of the season.
Correct. And talking about slow starts, I think the only time that he's got off to a good start in his Mets career was 2025. So more of the same from him. Obviously, the depth at the shortstop position was something of concern. Stearns brought up multiple players in that area, one of which was Ronnie Mauricio, who initially came up as a shortstop. I doubt that we're going to be seeing any of that at the end of the day. So, yeah, I mean, this was the obvious move for Francisco Lindor. Get the surgery 6 weeks out. Yes, it's fine. You could still rehab, do whatever process you want. Jeff Passan also tweeted out about how it takes a while for some of these players to get their power back. So it's going to be interesting to see how long it actually takes Francisco Lindor to get back to that sort of power slugging level that we've known of him, because he's been so great in that area for such a long time. I mean, listen, this is it's better off that it just happens now. I think everybody knows that. We're how many weeks away from opening day, Mike? Late March. We're here
We are
sitting on
40,
February 11th.
yeah, we're 43 days from opening day.
Yeah. So it's one of those unfortunate things, but once you know the actual timeline of it and when he got the surgery, I mean, come on. We've seen much worse come out of spring training. I think it's just going to be a slow start to the season for Francisco Lindor in that regard. So, any other final comments regarding Lindor and the Mets being absent for all of spring training?
Yeah, it's something like where like there's a good shot he'll be there when he gets the surgery, let's say today or tomorrow. Like it's a 6 weeks time now. He's back with like a week of games left, which is not ideal, but like worst case, if he misses the first week of the season, is not the biggest deal if he needs more time to get his swing right. But the
Right.
thing you're watching with him is really just like, does that power take a little bit to come back? Like that's something you're watching for with there because he's somebody who like you lost Pete Alonso, you took a lot of home runs out of the lineup here. If Lindor is going from like a 30 home run guy, like a 17 home run guy, it takes a while to get going. That is something that you will feel more this year than you did last year.
Yeah, I think you're looking at the low 20s if the recovery time is just that, and knowing his slow start, not really going to be playing in any spring training games. So, I mean, his season's going to start later. We might not really see the real Lindor until June. So it might be some time for that. And a huge point on the power numbers. I mean, he's arguably their second best power hitter within the lineup right now. We'll see what happens with some of the other players. But again, Francisco Lindor out for 6 weeks after getting surgery on a hamate bone. So we'll see what ends up happening there. But in the fog of all of this news, Mike, was that Juan Soto is moving to left field. So just 1 year in right field at Citi Field for the future Hall of Famer. Juan moving over to left. He's played in left before. This isn't really foreign to him. The Mets making this move so quickly, does that surprise you, or this was kind of always in the cards? I'm a little surprised it happened after one season, but seeing how they're going about run prevention and defense, having Benj in right field, or if it's Tyrone Taylor, is going to be an upgrade over there. And more or less, he's basically replacing Brandon Nimmo in left field. So what are your initial thoughts by this? You think it's a season too soon, or you thought it would have happened later?
It's not really on my radar because I mean, yes, I
Right.
mean having Brandon Nimmo there last year was not making a possibility. Him not being there, I guess we could have thought about this. From what it sounds like, he was going to play left field at WBC, and they talked to him and said, "Hey, like you, what do you about left for us?" Like I'm good with it. So I think it makes more sense. We know right field with the City Field with the with at the corner there, and like the weird outlet shape of the wall right there is very odd to get used to playing. Whereas left field's a little more straight up, so that might make more sense for players. Not the greatest defender in Soto. I know David Stern said he thinks Soto will be better left defensively. He wasn't right.
I mean, hopefully, I think there was only like rare aspects where Soto was thriving defensively, and that was his release point on his arm, doing a pretty decent job in terms of outfield assists. But if you're getting too many assists, that likely means you're not getting to the ball as much. Listen, we know he was signed for his bat. If he could just play a respectable left field, I think that's all that matters for the Mets. I think when people are trying to dissect, oh, how good can he be over here as opposed to over there? That doesn't matter at the end of the day. Juan Soto is one of the best hitters of a generation and one of the best of the past 30, 40 years. I don't think many will care. And hey, if this allows him to play in the outfield longer, because if it's more stressful on his body in right field for the reasons you mentioned, playing 81 games at Citi Field, this just makes more sense. And the Mets are making this move proactively. They aren't waiting until there's some sharp decline from Juan Soto. So yeah, and with that, Mike, that means Carson Benj, if and when he makes the team, he's going to be in right field. And there's a couple statistics, and Joe DeMeo pointed this out on Twitter. I got them for us here. He's played 127 games in right field from college to the minor leagues. He's played at Oklahoma State, and then obviously in the minors. Cup of coffee in AAA. Obviously, his hitting didn't go well enough there, but the amount of faith, I guess, in the Mets and Tyrone Taylor, Melendez, and then obviously Carson Benj here. Are you okay with this? You're comfortable with this? We know right field could be tricky, but the Mets are very, very high on Carson Benj and his potential.
Yeah, I know the scouts have said theoretically that like Benj can play center field well. I think he could be an elite defensive right fielder, which I think is sort of why like if Juan Soto's willing to make that move, you might as well just put Benj in the spot he's more comfortable in and be more useful there. And I think like if he's trying to adjust to the big league pitching and that's going to take a minute, like having him learn a new defense position might be a bridge too far for him. So I could get that sense that, okay, like he doesn't have to worry about the defense much, maybe just learn the angle of the Citi Field. Whereas like he's got to worry more about like hitting big league pitching, which is something I think he's going to be more focusing on in spring training a lot.
Yeah, exactly. I think if he shows those signs that he, flashed in AAA, and because we've mentioned this on the podcast a couple of times now, that sure, Benj was great in AA and he was progressing very well last year. His numbers, his output was underwhelming at the AAA level, but the underlying metrics signal that he's going to do better there. And again, like for me, worst case, Tyrone Taylor's operating in right field. Like Tyrone Taylor's a sensational defensive player. I really have no reserves about that. I think it's really going to be a mixed bag in terms of hitting at that position this season. We'll see. I like for me, I think Benj is absolutely going to make the team. I don't really see a scenario unless he struggles mightily and definitely has to go to work on some things. But overall, Mike, I actually just see Benj making this team out of camp. I'd be very surprised if not. And I wouldn't even be shocked we see Tyrone Taylor go to left field for defensive replacements. I think that's where things could get interesting. But that's kind of also like sitting Juan Soto in those scenarios. So the Mets with their defense, it's going to be fascinating in the outfield, truly, because Benj all off season seemed like left field, maybe even some center field if he progressed as well, which was obviously floated before the Luis Robert trade. But Benj in right field could be as soon as opening day. Any final thoughts on that, on the outfield, the positional changes?
I will say one thing also keep an eye on here in terms of the right field situations that you mentioned MJ Melendez. He is on a split contract, so he can go to the minor leagues here. That Starling Marte thing we talked about last week in terms of not great in left field, more comfortable in right field. So it's raised the possibility just a little bit that maybe
you think so? Yeah, for me with Marte, I just see him as a bat off the bench. I'm not really relying on him being physically prepared or ready to handle that position. I'm not opposed to it in any manner. He's obviously a better player than Melendez, but I hope he does come back. I think there's too many reasons as to what he can bring to this club rather than not. And we'll see what happens. I don't really foresee him playing too much right field, but it is a point that you raise, and he did decent enough. So you ready for more drama, Mike? Because
Sure.
there was plenty of it. And it
Oh boy.
involves Luke Weaver and his bag that he showed up with to spring training, having a Yankees logo on it. And boy, did everyone react very calmly and rationally to this. Look, I'm not going to sit here and defend Luke Weaver. His bag is his bag. Who gives a shit at the end of the day, right? It doesn't matter. But we all know when you're wearing a Yankees bag and after you had just played for them and you arrived to spring training on your first day with your new ball club that so happened to be crosstown nemesis with the New York Mets, probably best not to show up with the Yankee logo on it. For me, I don't care. I think the only thing that really comes out of this that is annoying is the perception that he did bring a bag that had a Yankees logo on it. And everybody wants to freak out and, play up this media narrative of, hey, like he misses the Yankees. Like, look at this, look at that. My whole thing is, why didn't we, the Mets, send him merchandise or a bag that's like, okay, you're ready to go. You're a part of the team the second that you sign. That's the only thing that I'd be like, okay, come on, Mets. Like, if you can at least do that, because the guy's showing up to spring training with Yankees gear. That's just one of those PR things that you want to prevent. But I guess any publicity is good publicity for the Mets today, because Weaver did speak with Joel Sherman and John Heyman about this with the New York Post.
Yeah, I will say in terms of this situation, I mean, the media is going all the, oh my God, about this nonsense. And to me, this is like, you care if we curse on here?
Oh, I just already cursed. Go for it.
You're gonna say, like, who the fuck cares what bag Luke Weaver brings to spring training? We've seen photos online of Max Scherzer bringing Texas Rangers gear to Toronto last year. We've seen like photos of like guys or other.
There's only one franchise where it matters. There's only the only ball club in the entirety of Major League Baseball that anyone would give a shit that someone wore or brought a bag to spring training that was from another team. To your point, right? Like, you just used an example immediately. But who is always the punching bag of the media? The New York Mets.
It's also, there's a lot of like butthurt Yankee fans right now who like just feel like, like we have to, like, they're threatened by Cohen and like the little, like, they don't want to be little, like, then become little brother to the Mets. And they're sort of saying, oh, look, I know there are certain radio personalities who like to stand the Yankees and jump all over this. And like, you know what? Like, it's a bag. Who cares? He signed a contract to play with the Mets. He brought his gear to spring training in a Yankee bag. Would it be nice if the Mets had sent a bag ahead of time? Sure. Does it matter? Absolutely not.
No, I just think you're right to this. And I'm not even doing the whole Yankees Mets thing with the fan bases. And I know you aren't really pushing that either. But it's just odd behavior from fan bases to kind of, why do you care? Right? Like, if this whole narrative is that the Mets are little brother and they don't matter, then why do you have comments? Why do you have comments about what players are showing up with what to spring training? Why does that matter? Why are you so fragile? Every single one of you with your egos. And this is more so for the younger Yankees fans or the younger ones on social media. This has nothing to do with like the actual real Yankees fans that are worried about like trying to win a World Series for the first time since 2009, winning more than once since the year 2000. Those are what the fans actually care about, the real fans. None of this drama where you just want to look down on the Mets and their players and their fans just because someone showed up with a bag. To your point, who gives a fuck? No one cares. No one cares about that, right? Isn't this supposed to be about World Series winning in October? What does something that happened in February have to do with any of that? It doesn't. It's irrelevant. It's lazy, and they have nothing better to do with their times. So moving on. Go ahead. Final thoughts.
I say, well, when you're like ownership for us gives you like the most boring offseason of all time, you basically bring the entire team back minus two guys who went to the Mets and Webb Williams and Weaver. Like, you need something to talk about. So I think they just grasping at straws here to like find something to like get themselves fired up.
Yeah, and you know what? If that's what they care about, more power to you. That's your prerogative, I guess, because you have nothing better to talk about. Something that did come up, Mike, which is very interesting because of basically the news that Tobias Myers got was to stretch and start out as a starting pitcher in spring training. Obviously has been a starter throughout most of his time with the Milwaukee Brewers, had pitched in the bullpen last year. He's one of those guys who is flexible like that. We've talked about the Milwaukee Brewers and their process plenty, and lo and behold, joining the New York Mets with this. Whether or not this has everything to do with Kodai Senga and trying to help him and be healthy this season, or it's just something that the Mets just want to try out potentially. And this wasn't something that David Stearns either confirmed or denied. He basically kept saying, we will cross that bridge when we get there if it's a potential six-man rotation come opening day. Your initial thoughts on, Tobias Myers, none of that surprises me in any manner whatsoever, because he could be incredibly valuable as a starting pitcher. We've already seen someone like Clay Holmes make that move. The Mets are not scared or hesitant to do anything in that regard. Six-man rotation, though, Mike, you really think that might be something for the Mets, or this is just sort of them testing the waters?
I think they're open to like the hybrid 6-man rotation where maybe somebody's there. And like when you go through long stretches of the schedule without a day off, like in Kodai Senga, you're wanting to pitch on 4 days of rest too often. I could see that being a thing where maybe the guys in the bullpen, maybe comes in behind somebody, then, okay, we have this long stretch. Okay, you're starting this game. I could see it happening. But to the whole Tobias Myers of it all, of course he should be stretching out right now because we saw last spring with the Mets, like they had 2 pitchers get hurt in camp. They had Montas and Manaea go down in camp here. Like if you're telling Tobias Myers coming as a reliever and then you have 3 starters get hurt, like if he waits till then to ramp up and you're not set to go. Whereas if this happens again and he's stretched out, okay, he's in the rotation. You can always shorten guys. It's much easier to shorten the guys than to stretch them out because once you get them like off the starter routine, it's very hard to build back up to that.
Yeah, exactly. I just want health. I don't really care if it's 6-man, 5-man rotation, whatever provides longevity and innings pitched by the starting rotation is where I'm on that page. It's obviously very difficult. We've already seen Schwellenbach with the Atlanta Braves. He's out for an indefinite amount of time. He doesn't even know when he'll be back. Like we talk about it, it's the most volatile position in sports, especially in Major League Baseball, are pitchers and especially starting pitchers. Listen, I don't think it's ideal to have a 6-man rotation. Truthfully, I don't. I don't think it's been done consistently enough, and pitchers are never really that healthy, and you kind of hurt your bullpen in a way like that. You need more organizational depth if you try to do something like that. Listen, like I was saying before, just get the innings because we saw last year with this ball club, no one could go 6 or longer, and it really hurt the Mets. If this is a pathway to help them achieve that, then sure, I can understand it. I just don't see this lasting for a longer period of time. Ultimately, someone like Myers could be more useful in the bullpen. There's no guarantee all these guys are going to be healthy as well. For me, this is just, the logical thing to do is you mentioned, we don't know if someone will get hurt. So prepping guys who can be starters to be starters makes plenty of sense in that regard. When the Mets do get to that bridge, Mike, which is right around opening day, how do you foresee this happening? Say the Mets come through spring training with minimal injuries with the starting pitchers. How do you see that going?
It depends. Is Kodai Senga there or is he not?
He's healthy. We're acting like they're all healthy.
Okay, if they're all healthy, I think what they're going to do is carry 6 starters and 7 relievers. I think then who knows? Maybe we'll see, when we have shorter stretches of schedule, maybe we do the piggyback thing again with Manaea and Clay Holmes. I can see that being a possibility. And I just think the idea is you want to have like 6 stretched out guys because I want to take a quick look at their schedule and see what it looks like early. Because remember, they have a lot of I think it's 4 separate trips to the West Coast by June, which is a very taxing thing for a team. So like if I could see them relying on the 6-man very early to like sort of like keep guys fresh through like that grueling schedule.
Yeah. It's almost impossible to predict how healthy a starting staff can be throughout the season. So we'll see with that. I'm not fully convinced by it. I think Stearns, like usual, likes to keep his options open. So we'll see with that. Other starting pitching news, this does relate to it, is AJ Minter returning by May. According to multiple reports, we have seen him throw already in spring training. Obviously a build up back to, last year's injury with the torn lat. I think he was sorely missed. We barely got to see much of him. He was so in his appearances with the ball club. We knew he was going to opt in immediately once he got hurt. AJ Minter, though, I mean, the upside of him could be invaluable for the Pen. What are you kind of expecting from him? I'm just kind of indifferent to him as well, like many of these other guys. I think the best version of him is a quality relief pitcher, but I'm just not really sure when or if we get that this season.
I think May is the right time frame for Minter. Like, there's no reason to rush him. I saw they made a minor trade to bring in another lefty option. A few guys that want to carry two lefties in the opening day bullpen. Mania could factor in that too if they decide to do this hybrid 6-man thing. But like AJ Minter at his best can be a setup option for this team. And I think like having Brooks Raley there too helps because we've seen way too often the Mets, for some reason, insist on carrying just one lefty against like in a division where you're dealing with, Matt Olson, Bryce Harper, Kyle Schwarber, James Wood now. Like they seem to be content just one lefty. I think having two full-time will help them give this season a lot better.
Yeah. And again, we're not even fully ruling out what relief or starting pitchers come up from the minor leagues, aka Christian Scott. It is such a fascinating situation. We're so early on in spring training. We really don't know how much of this will develop as the season goes. For me, I think Minter is just going to provide that sort of leadership in the pen alongside guys like Devin Williams and Luke Weaver. I think just the Mets have a bunch of fine arms in the bullpen. I don't think anyone there is like, oh my God, this guy is an elite reliever in baseball. We'll see what happens with Devin Williams. But I think this is just another guy to have in there that is relatively reliable. That's the one part of this Mets roster that doesn't wow me is the pen. I think the pen is just fine. And sometimes that's okay. You don't really need this elite sort of pen. I think a lot of fans in baseball really kind of overproject how important that is because it's so volatile over the season. I know the Dodgers are an exception to the rule, but they've won the World Series without an elite bullpen. I don't think necessarily the Houston Astros during their dominant stretch had like this jaw-dropping elite bullpen. They had good arms in there, but not everyone's the 2015 Royals. It always feels like people and teams are trying to recreate that. Truthfully, you just need a couple of guys that you could rely upon because look what happened with Philly. Philly had a good bullpen even in 2024. What happened to Strong? What happened to Alvarado? Right? Like these guys supposed to be relied upon in the biggest of situations crumbled. So I'm not going to take away too much from Minter. I also think there were plenty of struggles in Atlanta too. But if this is like a sixth or seventh inning guy, I think that's ultimately where he's going to end up. So take your time. We'll see what happens. I actually do see him in the back half of May just because he's been out for so long. Any final thoughts on the Major League roster stuff? I do have one more topic regarding one player in the minor leagues that we should discuss.
Yeah, not really. Just because another thing about the reliever point is like you always forget, like there's always relievers available in July if you need them. So like we saw the Mets get three last year. So like if like they're going and picking up the phone in July looking for another bullpen arm.
Hey man, you never know what Craig Kimbrell as well. So that could be a potential in there. It's Ryan Clifford. This was a name floated. I had mentioned this before, but Joe DeMayo, again, PSL to Flushing, Joe's been on Twitter and in the Mets sphere for the longest of times. And he mentioned, don't be surprised if Ryan Clifford comes up to play first base in 2026 for Queens. David Stearns had commented that he will be starting in AAA. I mean, he had a great minor league season last year. Really showed promising signs. Forget the power for a moment, right? The numbers dropping with the strikeout percentage was imperative for his growth. We've already spoken about him on this channel and podcast about what his upside could be. I've thought this, and I said this when we were discussing Mark Vientos. If Vientos ends up leaving, Jorge Polanco goes to DH, there is a pathway for Ryan Clifford to be the Mets first baseman as soon as this year. None of this would surprise me. He has that sort of upside, a bit on the younger side, and he's getting his time to develop. I think there's parallels between him and Brandon Sproat, Mike. When last year Sproat looked like he had potential to absolutely make the team out of spring training. I'm not saying that's exactly the same with Clifford. That's not the case. But you knew at some point in time, if he pitched well enough or played well enough in Clifford's case in AAA, that eventually during the season, the Mets would have no choice but to call up said player. I think that's going to be the case with Ryan Clifford. If the strikeouts stay down, if the power is still popping, it's going to be hard for the Mets to say no if Vientos is middling. If Vientos is mediocre or really not showing those signs in 2024 and he's closer to the guy in 2025, I don't see how they don't say, hey, Jorge Polanco, we're going to put you more at the DH spot. It's just a 2-year deal still. You're a fine hitter. You're doing okay at first base, but we have this stud in the minor leagues that we really want to try and call up to see what he's got. What do you think of this Ryan Clifford situation? And if he were to come up in 2026, what month or part of the season would it be?
I think you're looking like, unless he's crushing the baseball immediately, this is a second half situation. Maybe
Right.
an injury accelerates this a little bit. Like if somebody who you're counting on gets hurt and he's like playing well, but like I think they're in the spot where they don't want guys like Ryan Clifford or Carson Benz. Okay, please save us. Like you're the
Right.
next like great hope for us. I think they want to, bring these guys up. Like, okay, you're gonna hit eighth today and you're gonna play first base and like just get used to your reps against these guys and not have to come up be like the 3 hitter for us. I think if you were getting up to the point where like Ryan Clifford has to take therapy, something has gone horribly wrong.
Well, yeah, I mean, absolutely in that sense. For me, I think that I am all for pulling the trigger on a young player if you think he's ready, right? Not in the sense of, oh, this is a surprise, shocking call up. Clifford's been playing well for some time. He's shown that. They're not scared. And I know Tong is a different situation. I referenced this last week. Tong is different because of where the Mets were with their pitching staff. And obviously, you highlight if Clifford would have come up a little bit earlier than some would think, then something had gone wrong in Queens, which we're not, surprised by. That happens quite often as the lead to the show today. For Clifford, I mean, yeah, it's just show that steady progress. Can you maintain that for a period of time? I don't even think he necessarily needs to crush the baseball. His defensive metrics, I mean, he's not, you don't hear anything overly negative about him. He's mostly about what his potential could be. That's plus pop from the left side of the plate. So, like, for me, with Ryan Clifford, he's the ultimate boomer bust prospect in the Mets system. And I'm not saying in the sense of I think he'll bust. It's he's got the most potential of these guys from the previous regimes that Stearns seems to take a liking to, that has this power upside that quite a few of the other hitting prospects just don't have. We know Ewing's a contact guy. Benj is more of an all-around sort of hitter. Clifford is the number one slugging guy in the Mets system. Do you agree with this sort of upside with Clifford? Because I still think he's kind of this wild card, in my opinion, for this Mets season. I know we all know for sure that Benj will be here by the latest Memorial Day. Clifford could be a completely different X factor.
Yeah, this could be like if you're like looking for like cheap pop late in the year for some reason. Let's say like Jorge Polanco's power from last year doesn't sustain, or Marcus Semien doesn't rebound, and we know Bo Bichette's not going to give you a 35 home run campaign. If you're a little lacking in power, this could be a button you pull that like that you can like go ahead and say, okay, if he's hit like 15 home runs in the minors by like June 30th, and Jorge Polanco is sitting there at like 8 home runs or something like that, like maybe you go ahead and pull that trigger and say, okay, maybe DH the guy to help ease him in and get him a little first base run. But like, if we need power, we try that before we go look to the trade market.
Yeah, it's so Clifford to me, man. I really do think he's going to be playing baseball in Queens in 2026.
Yeah.
It is really important for me. This is just how I view it. If you're able to cut down on strikeouts and still show plus pop at the age of 20, it was mostly his age 22 season, right?
Yep.
That's invaluable. 22 is still really young in terms of hitting. We knew when he got traded for that Clifford was an upside player, right? Where Acuna and I believe Drew Gilbert, they were more known commodities. We knew what they were as players. Whereas Clifford, he could project to be a slugging first baseman who might have a respectable glove. And to your and I's point, and that we have talked to our good friend Will about, people will forget about Pete Alonso if Clifford comes in and shows enough. And he's already got a gimmick attached to him. Clifford, the big red dog, is just clearly where they're going to go with this if this pops off. So Mets fans are not going to have to worry about that and their whole polar bear thing, because Mets fans love a gimmick. I see it clearly with Clifford.
Yeah. He's definitely got that potential here. I think that's going to be interesting to track here with him and see how fast he can pick things up.
I think ultimately you don't see Ryan Clifford until July or August. I don't see it happening anytime sooner, barring disaster, as you mentioned. So ultimately, that's what's going to happen with the Mets. So we're wrapping up here after 30 minutes. Again, you guys can go and check everything out, trying to come out with weekly episodes. Be sure to check out all the social clips on MLBU Stadium on Instagram. You can follow Mike everywhere on social media, mphillips331. We're getting closer and closer to March Madness. Michael, the best time of the year for sports. And you and I are huge basketball lovers. And you guys can go follow me at Martino Puccio everywhere. So again, Francisco Lindor getting surgery on his hamate bone. Juan Soto moving to left field. Yankees fans bitching about what player a Mets player brings to spring training. No one gives a shit. It's ridiculous. Any other final thoughts, Michael, before we wrap up?
No, I think that's pretty much it. I mean, I think we'll just keep the track of who's getting the shortstop reps, while Lindor is out. I think that's something to monitor. I know, while we were on the air, I know Carlton Doza basically said that right now the idea is not for Bo Bichette to go there. They want Bo Bichette to focus on learning third base. So I would guess Ryan Mauricio is probably the leading candidate to get that spot. We'll see what happens.
After all these years, Ronnie Mauricio going to be playing shortstop for the Mets would be hilarious. But anyways, Mike, thanks so much once again. Guys, please like and subscribe to the channel. We appreciate all the feedback and support that we've been getting from everyone. Other than that, take care and see you next time.